Future timeline, shortly after the end of the Super Android 13 special. Break sat up, sighing. It's over. She shook her head, still feeling the ringing in her ears. Sort of. Gohan strode towards her through the demolished battlefield. We're near Dr. Zero's laboratory, right? Well, let's go blow the place. Can't have it making any more super androids. Just that one was enough of a pain to deal with. What if it learns to mass produce? Break shivered. You're right. Let's go. Speaking of androids, 17 and 18 were nowhere to be seen. They left, Gohan told her. Said it was a creepy feeling being so close to the lab, and they just hoped we'd destroy it quickly. Then let's do that. Break motioned towards the broken ground where the battle had risen from underneath. Come on. They flew briskly towards the hole and descended inside. Once underground, Break formed an energy ball in one hand for light. Here. A tunnel led out of one end of the collapsed chamber. They hopped over to the debris to reach it, walking for several minutes before reaching the end, where the tunnel promptly opened out into nothing at all. What? Break gasped. There's nothing here! Nothing but dirt and rock in front of them. Hey, look. Gohan heaved some boulders out of the way, pointing to the floor. Tracks. It seems Jiro's supercomputer anticipated this. The entire lab is mobile. It's long gone. God damn it! Break growled. It could be anywhere now! And it's collapsed its tunnel behind it. We'd never find it. What can we do? Gohan asked. Despite being the older and more experienced fighter, he found himself more and more deferring to Break's leadership these days. It wasn't just that she was the strongest. Ever since she'd returned from the past, she'd been confident, decisive, almost a different person. Perhaps being the main defender of the Earth, having so much riding on you alone, had that effect on you. Whatever it was, Gohan again found himself awaiting her decision. We get stronger, she said firmly. When the next android it cooks up appears, we kick its ass halfway across the planet, and we blow the lab. If it repeats Cell's mistake and takes us to the lab straight off, we do that first. If not, we make it take us there. Or have Bulma take it apart looking for a tracking device once we've pulled its head off its shoulders. Gohan nodded. Good plan. Days became weeks, and weeks became months. Training intensified. Bulma offered Gohan a more human-looking cybernetic arm, but he refused, saying he wanted a reminder of the old, dark days. Finally, a breakthrough. After vivid descriptions from Break of the exact details of the battles in the past with Cell and Broly, after much meditation, hard training, and his continued insistence that she fought him in her legendary form to provide an obstacle to overcome, Gohan ascended. It was not dramatic or flashy. They were sparring out in the wasteland, with Break's legendary power giving her a distinct advantage. Gohan was knocked to the ground, not for the first time that day. Calmly, he stood up. Something was different in his eyes. He breathed in deeply, as if about to shout, then instead spoke quietly. There. A flash of light, and he transformed. Blue lightning, hair standing on end, hard look in his eyes. Let's see. One punch sent Break's bulked-up form flying. He looked down at his hand, surprised. So, this is what it feels like to go truly beyond a Super Saiyan. Suddenly, losing energy, he fell to his knees, powering down as Break walked back over to him. I did it. Unbelievable. Yeah, Break grinned. No android's going to stand up to that. And because in some things a person would generally think the same way, no matter which version of them you take, the next words out of Gohan's mouth were, let's see, I think Super Saiyan 2? Sounds good to me. As it turned out, this new burst of power registered on instruments far, far away on distant stars. Curiosity was aroused. Unmanned probes were launched. Energy was measured. The energy of a sparring match between a legendary Super Saiyan and a Super Saiyan 2. Results were read. Jaws dropped. Reports were filed. And some, sitting at the top of the heap, grew uneasy. And so they arrived. The would-be conquerors, eager to eliminate competition and prove themselves #1 in the universe. First, the Saiyan Turles. Then, the Namekian Slug. And finally, Bojack and his gang. None returned. None could defeat Earth's warriors, and all were too stubborn to let themselves be taken alive. Gohan and Break, for their part, relished the occasional workout. Meanwhile, Bulma had kept herself busy. In order to speed up the hunt for the laboratory, and hopefully make a preemptive strike rather than simply reacting to the next attack, she'd been working on a scouter-like device that could detect the kind of energy given off by Dr. Zero's androids' power sources, but so far without success. Whenever they asked, she'd shrug and say, sorry, it's not picking up anything at all, or, It's only giving one reading, and it's reading a higher energy output than any machine could physically have, so yeah, still broken. Things seemed to settle down after that. No more hopeful tyrants made attempts on the Earth, no sign of any new androids emerged. With Gohan's help, Break unlocked Super Saiyan 2, describing it and the legendary form as two branching paths leading off of basic Super Saiyan. Hard as she tried, the twin reserves of power within her remained stubbornly separate. She could find no way to use all her power at once. Exactly 2 years after Break's return from the past, the three of them were all sitting down for their annual celebration commemorating the defeat of the androids and another year of freedom, already a worldwide tradition. When Bulma frowned, an alarm ringing on her phone. Huh? She flipped it open. Oh, satellite dish is picking up something. Large object, approaching Earth. Not a ship. Gohan nodded. Now that you mention it, I do sense an approaching key. Break stood up. Yeah, it's huge. But dormant somehow. Not quite suppressed or hidden exactly. I don't know how to describe it. I know what you mean. Gohan headed for the door. Come on, let's go check it out. Break followed, pulling on her Capsule Corp jacket over her armor and taking off as soon as she reached the door. Think this is another invader? Gohan asked. I don't know, Break replied, frowning. This energy, it's familiar somehow. Her eyes widened. No way. How the hell did he get here? And on his own? Who? Gohan asked urgently. Who is it? Broly, she said grimly. Gohan grimaced. He heard his cousin's account of the 9 invincible Saiyans rampage. But we should be fine, right? And we were both stronger than he is now, yeah? You said a Super Saiyan 2 beat him easily, so 2 of them should have no problem, right? Let's hope so. I don't sense his father with him. Not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. On one hand, Paragus would probably just order him to kill us. But at the same time, he's kind of psychopathic anyway. They landed on a hilltop a few hundred yards from the crash site, now seeing the object for what it was. A large chunk of ice, having somehow survived re-entry, largely unmelted. Presumably something to do with the metal protrusions sticking out from the ice at all angles. Antenna whirring, lights blinking. A cloud of steam rose into the air and water began to fill the impact crater as the ice finally started to melt. At the same time, a round metallic object detached itself from the whole apparatus and zipped swiftly through the air towards them. It halted just in front of them, beeping for a couple of seconds before projecting a hologram of a familiar figure. Paragus. Greetings. The recording said as the half-Saiyans watched intently. If you are watching this, then my probe has been successful in tracking down Saiyan life signs somewhere in the galaxy. Perhaps it took years or even decades to reach you. I may even be dead by now. You will find near you an ice capsule which should even now be thawing out. It contains my son, Broly. He has grown too powerful and too restless. I cannot control him anymore. Therefore I leave him to you, wherever you're hiding. Have fun with him. His face twisted into a snarl. Broly is the mightiest being in the universe. Prepare to meet your end, traitors! This is the price you pay for stabbing me in the back! His image vanished as Break vaporized the projector drone with a wave of her hand. Excellent, she said. We're dealing with Broly completely unrestrained here. This can only end well. Hold on, it's opening. Gohan warned. As one, they turned Super Saiyan, anxiously watching the ice as it cracked and split. Finally, it shattered, shards scattering in all directions. Broly, wild-eyed and dripping wet, dropped weakly to the ground in the rapidly filling crater. He lurched to his feet. He shook his head, spraying water from side to side, and clambered up the dirt incline, muddying his hands and flopping over onto his back on the other side, sliding down the grassy slope. And at the bottom, he stood again, seeming to regain some strength and gazed up at the sky. Father! He screamed. Why did you abandon me? He almost stumbled, but remained standing proudly upright, taking in his heaving breaths. I have served you all my life. What have I done to deserve this? All I wanted was a little freedom. Why did you leave me here? Receiving no answer from the heavens, he fell onto his hands and knees, going quiet again. The half-Saiyans observed the whole episode curiously. Huh, Break mused. That doesn't seem like him at all. And then again, the only time he wasn't under his father's control, he was in his legendary state. Maybe we just never got to see more than the mindless killer. Oh, I'm sure he's still that, Gohan decided. He's just confused right now. What should we do? You stay here. What? Gohan started to protest. You can't. I'm going to talk to him. Break insisted, powering down. I have to. I never had the chance to talk to someone who understands. You mean being a legendary Super Saiyan? Yeah. Even Super Saiyan 2. Mentally, it just doesn't come close. Every second I'm in the legendary form, I'm one step away from going completely berserk. He's the only person in the universe who knows what it's like, and I'm going to talk to him. Gohan rubbed his forehead, shaking his head. This is insane. Yeah, it is. Hold my jacket, will you? Hey. Broly looked up, seeing someone standing over him. A girl not too far off his age, wearing armor that seemed a little familiar. Who are you? He grunted. A Saiyan, like you. No, you're not. He snorted. No tail, blue hair. Don't joke around with me. In saying this, he conveniently overlooked his own lack of a tail. Well, look who thinks he knows everything, Break smirked. But I'm more like you than you realize. She turned Super Saiyan. Look familiar? Shaking his ragged hair out of his eyes, Broly stood up unsteadily. Super Saiyan. He transformed as well, with slightly more effort. The transformation filled his body with new vigor and he straightened up. Like this? He pointed a finger at her. Just who are you? I'm supposed to be special. Nobody else can do this. Well, Break shrugged. Guess you're wrong. Any Saiyan can, with enough effort. Is that so? Broly ground his teeth together. This girl was starting to get on his nerves. As if anyone in the universe was his equal. Fine. Maybe then I'll show her what made fathers so afraid of me. Well, can they do this? Yelling, his body expanded around him, swelling into the monstrous legendary form, waves of green energy rolling out from him. No, not usually, Break admitted. But boy, you are unlucky. You're talking to the one other person who was born, let's say, a little different. Shut up already! Broly threw a punch, but to his surprise, Break caught it. He looked up, seeing her muscles expanding, her hair standing up on end, her aura becoming bright green, her eyes changed to blank white. Told you! I'm more than you think! What? That's impossible! Broly protested. And yet, Break let go of his hand, and the two legendary Super Saiyans glared at each other. While Broly's unrestrained use of the form and lack of training led him to being much larger than Break, who even now wasn't much bulkier than in her regular form, their ki was unmistakably identical. This energy! You can't be! Broly held his head in his hands, shaking it from side to side. No! No! I am the strongest in the universe! I am the legendary! Legendary Super Saiyan, invincible warrior. I know. I know. Do not take me lightly. He growled, clenching his hands into fists. I'll kill you! Go ahead and try. I haven't had a workout today anyway. Break raised her guard as Broly charged wildly at her. Sitting on the hilltop, observing events, Gohan sighed. This isn't going to be pretty. Neither of us get to really cut loose very often, and she's not very good at dealing with pent-up aggression. I'd hate to be in Broly's shoes right now. Half an hour later. A missed swing. An armed grab. Leverage on the ground. Flipped overhead. Gasping, Broly crashed to the ground, forming the latest in a series of craters made by his many floorings over the course of the fight. Finally, it was too much. Energy reserves exhausted. He returned to his normal form, grimacing as he felt his incredible power leave him. Once more, Break stood over the fallen Saiyan, arms folded. She relaxed into her regular Super Saiyan state. There, you see? You're not the strongest, not by a long way. And that wasn't even my full power. She added, knowing full well that the fight would have been even easier had she gone Super Saiyan 2. How? How did it? He breathed. Simple. Same power source. One of us is trained, the other hasn't. Amazing what some martial arts will do for you. She sat down next to him. Still though, that was pretty fun. Haven't had a fight like that for a while. You're a tough one, you know? She grinned. Plus, it was cool seeing that look in your eyes. The one I knew must be in mine. You and you alone know what it's like. The roar in your head. The fire behind your eyes. Broly was silent for a long time. I always thought I was unique. But that's exactly it. That's how it feels. He paused, sitting up slightly. I've never had to work that hard. Fighting someone. Or really work at all. It's always been so easy, and I enjoyed it. Having power over others, even if I knew, in the back of my mind, I was really under someone else's power. Still, being the greatest, I've always loved it. But this was different. For the first time, I was excited to fight. It wasn't just a thought, a flick of the wrist. I was putting everything I had into it. It was exhilarating. He was rambling, talking as much to himself as to her. Break nodded, smiling. Good, you're a Saiyan. You're supposed to love fighting. What you've done all your life wasn't fighting, it was pest control. I'm the only real opponent you've ever had. I saw something, though. You were surprised at what you could do. For the first time, you discovered just how powerful you really are, and it startled you. But it wasn't enough, Broly growled. I won't just accept this. I'll beat you next time. Sure you will. A sly expression crept onto her face. But you'll need somewhere to stay while you recover. And, you aren't going to find much to eat out here. Broly understood the implication. Fine. I've never fought anyone I couldn't beat, even if this one is different. She'll be no exception. Yes, I feel it. The fabled Saiyan battle hunger. I will never be defeated. Since Korin Tower, home of the magical healing sensors, was long destroyed and no Namekians remained alive, healing had to be done the old-fashioned way. Though Saiyans did heal quite fast anyway. Broly, as expected, wolfed down any food put in front of him, and spent the rest of his time exercising. It wasn't quite training, not in the martial arts sense. He just threw physical challenges in front of him to try and accelerate the recovery process. Sometimes it backfired. He fell off a mountain or emerged spluttering from the bottom of a waterfall, and his recovery was actually set back a little. But there was no discouraging him. Finally, he seemed fully healed. The morning immediately after his recovery, he walked over to Break's bedroom and kicked her awake. Get up! He growled. Today's the day you're gonna die! Are you smiling? Break asked, rubbing her eyes. She climbed out of bed, changing quickly. You really are looking forward to this. Of course. I can't wait to avenge my defeat. I've thought of nothing else since I came here. I doubt that. Like I care what you think. A few minutes later, each having changed from casual clothes to their fighting outfits, they squared off, assuming the legendary form in an almost leisurely fashion. Back home, Gohan was awoken by the incredible surge of energy. What the? Oh, they're fighting again. Sighing, he turned over and went back to sleep, completely unconcerned for his longtime ally's safety. I saw last time, Broly can't touch her. Alright, show me! Broly lunged, and Break paired with her forearm, countering a swift punch to the larger Saiyan's stomach. He lurched away, throwing a pulsing energy ball, which she dodged. Nodding, as if this was perfectly fine, he tried attacking from a few different angles, always without success. Finally, he stopped, powering down. Huh? Break relaxed to her normal form as well. That's it? Broly closed her eyes. For now. I just wanted to see exactly how great the difference was. It's obvious I can't beat you right now. Our powers are equal, but your skill is worlds above mine. So, you're giving up? She asked hesitantly. Of course not! He snapped. But I've only ever fought as a brawler. A monster. You're a martial artist. There's no comparison. Unexpectedly, he bent down on one knee. Teach me! I want to learn to truly fight! Break folded her arms. Let me get this straight. You want me to teach you, so you'll have a better shot at killing me. Broly fell silent. When you put it like that, there is a tradition, is there not? You find someone stronger than you. You learn from them. Every student wishes to surpass their master. You can stop throwing out random words. Break sighed, rolling her eyes. I'll train you, alright? But don't blame me if the new way of fighting causes a new way of thinking, too. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing more, only what I said. She smiled, raising her key slightly. Since you're all healed up, shall we get started? Naturally, being somewhat lacking in patience, every time Broly made a significant step forwards in his technique, he would try fighting Break again, but as she kept reminding him, she'd been doing this her whole life, and the result was largely the same. His attacks slowly changed from uncontrolled swings to measured strikes. His movements became more precise, but the skill difference between them was frustrating. It was like a child fighting an adult. or like he was fighting a psychic. Whatever he did, she'd read his moves like a book. He'd always be 3 steps ahead, positioning her body in exactly the right spot to avoid his blow and counter with maximum force for minimum effort. But he was gradually improving. Occasionally now, he'd land a hit and it would cause her real damage. In terms of pure physical strength, they were equal. You know, she said one day, observing him practicing defensive techniques out in the forest, when you think about it, you don't really want to kill me. Broly paused. I'm not sure how you got to that conclusion, seeing as I've spent the last 6 months training to do just that. It turned out that, with a little practice, Beryl Saiyan could be quite eloquent. She laid back, folding her arms behind her head. Well, just think. If you kill me, let's say for argument's sake, Gohan too, what happens then? You wander around breaking things like before, only with more freedom and less direction. She shrugged. Won't that seem a bit dull compared to when you had someone to challenge you? You'd never really experience a fight like this again. He stood still for quite some time. I don't know what I do, he finally said in a quiet voice. I've always been quite glad you showed up as soon as I had froze. I was aimless in those few minutes. I finally had my freedom, but no idea what to do with it. His mouth attempted to twitch upwards in a smile, with limited success. I'm fortunate, really, that the only Saiyans alive happen to be like you. She nodded, deep in thought. Well, tell me one thing. If I were to die, say I got sick or whatever, because I honestly don't see you managing to kill me even if you did want to, what would you do, specifically in regards to the Earth? If for some reason Gohan wasn't around either. If you're thinking I destroy it just for kicks, you're wrong, Broly assured her. I was actually about to say that I would, half jokingly, but something stopped me. Something? Well, I've been here a while now. It's pleasant enough, and laying waste to it would feel wrong somehow. Like I was destroying all the memories here, all the ways I've improved. You have, physically and mentally. The peaceful days continued. About a month later, Break was unexpectedly approached by her visitor while watching the construction sites in West City. She loved seeing the recovery progress, day by day. What have you done to me? Broly demanded. Break shrugged. Taught you martial arts? Let you sleep in our house? Eat our food? Is this a trick question? Was this your plan all along? He pressed. I'm different. I was planning our next fight, what I'd do differently. And it stopped. It stopped as soon as I'd won. The words tumbled out, almost a stream of consciousness. I really don't want to kill you. There'd be no pleasure in it anymore. I see. But you want to keep getting stronger. Yes. Overtaking you is still my goal. She nodded. Is that all? No, I think I want to improve because I know I can. And I know it'd be a shame to have that potential and leave it untapped. She smiled. You know, I think you're getting there. To the truth. Truth? It's not about overcoming this enemy, that enemy. I used to think like that. Getting stronger than 17 and 18 was always my only goal. And despite being so fixated on it, I never could. My family in the past showed me a better way. It's about bettering yourself. If you can improve, why shouldn't you? You did plan this, he sighed. Why? You destroyed plenty of other enemies, people just like me, or like I was. It was honestly hard to tell. He couldn't pinpoint one point in time where he changed. It was a gradual shift from one state to the next, not a sudden switch. Why? He searched for the right word. Why save me? When I met you, the other you, in the past, she studied his face, searching for traces of the former cruel, arrogant sneer. I'll be honest. As things went on, I started to hate you. But afterwards, I kept thinking back to the first few minutes, before you transformed, because I'm not sure if that was really you. It's easy to just let yourself become the legendary Super Saiyan completely, isn't it? To let the beast in, hand over the reins. Coming from anyone else, it would have seemed patronizing. But this was the one other person who felt the exact same thing. It took a long time for me to realize there was another way to do it, Broly admitted. But, while it seemed like there was a lot of repressed anger, a massive ego, a sense of deserving to be treated better than everyone else, I decided that was nurture, not nature. Not your nature. So when you turned up here, I got curious. I wanted to find out who you really were. She grinned. I think you're finding that out too. Well, he began, but was interrupted as Break span him around by the shoulders to face her. Hey, she said, an idea suddenly occurring to her. Here's something I bet you never heard from your dad, or anybody else for that matter. A compliment. Broly, you're a nice person, or at least you could be. You're interesting, you're more than just a killing machine, and surprisingly, you're pretty smart. What? He began, and didn't finish. Look, you had a pretty crappy upbringing, and I'm trying to help your self-esteem, so sue me if subtlety isn't my strong point. She got a confused look in reply. Right, I guess being liked by a person is a new one for you. Well, I like a lot of people. When I'm not punching things, I'm real friendly. I'm sure plenty of other people will like you too. Hey, go find out. Slow down! He managed, bewildered. Yeah, why don't you go meet some people? Go to one of those rebuilding sites, offer to help out. They're used to the occasional super strong person passing by. Here's another new experience for you. Do something constructive. She pushed him into motion, sending him shuffling awkwardly towards a construction site, then leaned on a nearby wall, wiping nervous sweat from her forehead. Wow, almost went a completely different direction with the whole I like you bit. Come on, girl, don't be ridiculous. Relationship? He probably doesn't even know the word. You are teaching him plenty, a tiny voice objected in the back of her mind. Well, you know what I bloody well mean. Even if he is a nice person and interesting. Oh, hush you. Shaking her head firmly and resolutely ignoring the tiny voice, she stomped back down the street towards Capsule Corp. Now, this is certainly a spin on things with what happens to Broly in the future. Anyway, that's it for Chapter 65. Stay tuned for Chapter 66 in just a few seconds. See you in a bit. And it appears that these mysterious warriors have appeared at every major attack location and are engaging the invaders, the news anchor was saying. So far, these engagements are all ongoing, but we'll be broadcasting all news live, so don't turn off your television, folks. And now a word from our sponsors. The people of Central City cowered in their homes as the storm intensified, blowing away anything out on the street that wasn't nailed down. Some kind of repeated crashing noise was coming from high above them, like rapid-fire thunder, impact after impact, as Gohan and Turles rebounded off each other, then charged back in again. It appeared for brief moments at the heat of the storm, fists and feet swinging, then vanished again and race off through the air. There was a staccato burst of impacts, and Gohan appeared, plummeting down to the ground. He landed in the town's main square, throwing out a huge crater and shattering the concrete around him, completely obliterating the decorative fountain. He struggled to his feet, wiping away a trickle of blood that dripped from his nose. Having fun? Turles floated down to the ground on the opposite side of the square. I guess you were all talk after all. His golden, spiked-up hair blew gently back and forth in the raging wind. Gohan scowled. He's a mockery to the whole idea of a Super Saiyan. A warrior of light. A beacon of hope. He just cheated his way up. No effort involved. Turles laughed. What? No clever comeback? Or maybe you're wondering if that's really all the power you can muster. I remember you got a lot stronger when I made you mad before. But it's not something you can just use on command, is it? No, Gohan growled. It isn't. I've always been unable to access my full power without getting angry. Simply fighting isn't enough. But! His fist pounded into the ground, sending a shockwave rippling out through the city. Cars flipped into the air. Street signs were flattened to the ground. Windows shattered. The sound and fury of the storm halted, settling into an eerie and forced stillness for a few brief moments. Gohan looked up at Turles, his eyes hard. You're giving me a lot of reasons to be angry. Faces flashed through his mind. Videl, Goku, Chi-Chi, Goten. I know what you're like, and I can imagine what'll happen if I don't stop you. He felt a familiar anger and a familiar power rise to the surface. You think you're something special, huh? His voice became lower, almost a snarl. I haven't even begun to fight! Finally, it reached the surface, and his Super Saiyan 2 aura blazed to life around him. His hair stood up on end, lightning arced around his body. Do you remember this? His eyes burned with quiet fury. I certainly do, Turles replied. I've been waiting for this. Fortune Teller Baba's palace was a place sometimes visited by the living who sought spiritual advice, and sometimes by the dead who needed to settle their affairs in the living world. At the moment, though, the rift between Earth and the afterlife had been torn open, and Hell's escapees streamed out through it. One such person alighted on the ground outside the palace. "Back here again," he muttered, tapping the device over his eyes. "Now, let's see. Hey! Somebody's left their scouter on, up above me somewhere." He grinned, taking off and soaring up into the sky. "Long time no see, Tarble." Goku and King Cold circled each other, each trying to get the full measure of each other's strength. "Mind if we take this out of the city?" Goku asked. "I'll be able to focus on fighting you, and if anybody else shows up, I'd like to intercept them once I'm done with you, before they can get to the city." "Once you're done with me? You've got some nerve," Cold replied. "Very well, if it makes you happy. I've no wish to annihilate this planet's population in any case, not when they could make such excellent subjects. The monkey's right to fear for these people." He was still unable to completely control his fourth form's power, and was prone to causing collateral damage when going all out. "We'll see about that." The Saiyan laughed as they flew north, landing on a couple of adjacent cars fleeing the city. "Well, are you ready?" "Abundantly so." With that, Cold attacked, throwing a high kick. Goku just barely dodged, hopping down onto the car's hood just as it reached the back end of a traffic jam. "What in tarnation?" The driver yelled as the two figures danced back and forth on his vehicle. Goku backflipped away, leaping from vehicle to vehicle, and Cold followed, launching quick strikes that Goku continued to dodge. Finally, Cold feinted low, catching Goku off guard and following up with an elbow strike. Goku saw it too late to dodge, and threw up both arms to block it. The attack rebounded off his defenses, sending him skidding backwards, his feet tearing up the roof of an 18-wheeler. "Pretty good," he said. "I got a good look at your speed, and now your strength too. I honestly don't know if I can beat you as I am now." "I've got time," Cold replied. "Let's find out." He drew a fist back, seemingly telegraphing a punch. Something instantly seemed off to Goku. From what I've seen so far, he isn't the kind to get sloppy. He's trying to draw my attention, but from what... Ah, I see. Frieza's energy, now at 100% of his power, evidently having powered up a while back in the city, was fast approaching behind Earth's defender, and tipped him off to Cold's bluff. The Saiyan swiveled on the spot, deflecting Frieza's ki beam with a spinning kick. "Nice try, but you forgot I could sense your energy!" However, a second blast came seemingly from nowhere, smashing head-on into Goku's chest. "As a matter of fact, we didn't!" Cooler, in his fifth form, snarled, and the attack, while substantially less than his own power level, took him by surprise, winding him. Before he could recover, Cold materialized above him, swinging his leg down and kicking Goku down to the road below. He bounced once, feeling the torn-up tarmac dig into his skin, then skidded onto his feet with the second bounce, coming to a halt amidst the panicked traffic jam. Voices washed past his ears over the steady hum of car engines. "Hey, what's the holdup? Who is that guy? Those guys are flying! Wasn't he on the news?" King Cold nodded to his sons. "Now, boys, you know the weakness of such tragically noble creatures, do you not?" "Naturally, father," Frieza said, smirking. "It's those pathetic lower life forms they waste all their energy protecting." "I like the way you're thinking!" Cooler growled, grinning bestially behind his face mask. The three Frost Demons each raised a hand, combining their power into a large energy ball, certainly large enough to engulf the huge line of traffic, if not the entire continent. "Fire!" Cold ordered, and they did so. Goku frowned. "Guess dodging's out of the question with all these people around me." He flew up into the air, throwing both hands out above him and crashing head-on into the blast, the impact knocking him straight back down to the ground in front of the traffic before detonating. The family resemblance in the Cold Dynasty was clear as they watched the resulting explosion. That the three of them had the same self-satisfied confidence was unmistakable. "These children of mine are quite something," the oldest realized. "Once we've established dominance over this planet, I might have to turn my attention to attaining Frieza's bulky state, or Cooler's fifth form. Luckily, my power was naturally so much greater than theirs that, for now, I need not worry about challenge... Huh? The smoke had cleared. A shimmering blue wall of energy was revealed. Goku was sweating buckets. He'd been driven down onto one knee, and his speed had gouged great rents into the road. But the barrier had held, and the people behind him were protected. "I told you," he gasped, lowering the shield and standing up. "I will not tolerate you endangering these people's lives! I may have to transform here, but let's give it some time. I don't detect any more attackers in this area yet, anyway." Frieza chuckled. "Oh, you won't tolerate it, will you? Well, my apologies if what you want isn't high on my list of priorities right now, ape." Goku sighed. "Your insults are as repetitive as they are mindless. When you try and hurt someone with words, it's a sure sign that you've run out of other ways to attack them." What are you? Frieza began, before a blur of orange light rushed past him. Goku collided with Cold, the two throwing lightning-fast attacks back and forth at each other, neither getting a decisive hit in. Don't just float there like a pair of balloons, Cold demanded. Attack already, damn you! Right, Cooler gulped. The speed they're moving. He and Frieza nodded to each other, then charged in. Suddenly, Goku found himself under attack from 3 fronts. 2 of them were a long way below his own power, true, but they served as adequate distractions from Cold, forcing him to lay off on his attacks and go on the defensive. By focusing on defense, he found his superior martial arts skill allowed him to fend off Cold's attacks while avoiding the minor threats Frieza and Cooler possessed. He gradually directed the battle away from the road, keeping up his retreat and parrying a particularly determined series of blows from the younger pair, while jumping over Cold's tail swipe. Alright, I'm not going to use up all my strength here. Time to kick things up a notch, he declared. Hyah! He summoned up his inner strength, transforming to a Super Saiyan state. What? Cold took a step back under the enormous pressure of Goku's ki, as the suns were literally blown away by its magnitude. Surely I was only killed by a Super Saiyan before because I never got the chance to transform. And yet, this one seems different somehow. You wanted a Super Saiyan? You've got one! Goku vanished, appearing inches away from Cold, arm poised mid-swing for a devastating stomach punch. Even before he made the attack, the difference in their power levels was obvious. To Cold, Goku's movement was instantaneous. To Goku, Cold was barely moving at all. However, the Super Saiyan stopped his punch at the last second, hearing a voice cry out, "Goku, wait!" Goku complied, stopping his fist half an inch from Cold's stomach. The shockwave was still immensely powerful, the sheer air pressure from the attack launching an unintentional ki that knocked Cold flat on his back. Oops. Sorry. He turned to face the newcomer. Kuriza. Don't worry about it. The juvenile Frost Demon looked around disdainfully as his grandfather picked himself up. His gaze swept over his uncle, then settled on his father. Well, it's been a long time, everyone. How have you been? Raditz and Pikkon swooped down, making a controlled descent into hell, tracking the source of the universal disruption. Strange, Raditz muttered. I've never felt a ki quite like this. He looked quite different to when Pikkon had last seen him. The most immediately striking change was his hair, cut to just past shoulder length, and kept that way thanks to magical assistance from Supreme Kai. Normally Saiyan hair never changes in shape or length, quickly growing back to normal if cut. Pikkon had questioned this, and Raditz had brushed it off, saying, "Oh, that? It gets in the way when... You know what, never mind." His outfit had changed too. He wore a simple, dark blue shirt, the kind Goku and the others had worn under their orange uniforms for a while now, this provided by King Kai. His pants vaguely resembled Pikkon's, loose and white. They were topped with a sash-like belt, upon which was emblazoned 3 symbols: the Turtle School's, King Kai's, and the Saiyan Royal Crest, to pay homage to his Saiyan, human, and otherworld comrades. Finally, his red arm, leg, and headbands were gone. Being dead himself, he no longer felt the need to pay tribute to the fallen of the past. Pikkon couldn't tell for sure, but it seemed a great weight off the Saiyan's mind. Pikkon, for his part, hadn't changed a bit, but to be fair of him, he'd been in the afterlife for several hundred years, and the white-robed look was evidently one he'd settle on and stuck with after a while. King Kai's voice chimed in telepathically. Hello? Raditz? Pikkon? You might want to hurry, or do I have to remind you that the entire structure of the universe is collapsing? Alright, calm down. We're here, Raditz said evenly. Forget appearance, Pikkon realized. This was the real change in the man. The deep sense of tranquility. He was totally at ease, and calm seemed to radiate from his body. And come to that, couldn't you just teleport there? The North Kai demanded. Don't worry, we've got time. I wanted to admire the scenery. He gazed around at hell. The lakes of blood, mountains carved with demonic faces, random clusters of spikes, the giant jelly beans? He paused. Did I just say that? I think you did. Pikkon stared at what appeared, indeed, to be a giant floating jelly bean. Odd. Not what I picture when I think of hell. Exactly! Those aren't meant to be there! King Kai shouted, making them wince. And King Yemma's palace has been encased in one of them! If he isn't freed, he can't start sorting out the loose souls and restore everything to normal! And come to it! Even if we do that, whatever caused this could just do it all over again! So you two gotta stop it, right now! He's going to give himself a stroke someday, I swear, Raditz said. I mean, it's not like it's the end of the world. Alright, technically it's worse than... well, figure of speech. He shrugged. Let's just get it over with. I believe we don't have a choice. Pikkon powered up, throwing off his training weights. Whatever it is, It's heading this way, fast! This energy, I've never felt anything like it. It's like a storm of chaos spreading out over this entire area. Good. Raditz cracked his knuckles, flashing effortlessly into Super Saiyan 2. Shortly, it came lumbering over a hill. Not at all what they were expecting. To be precise, an enormous, fat yellow creature with a vacant smile and 4 round openings on its torso. As soon as it spotted them, it let out a childish laugh, firing a stream of hundreds of yellow energy bullets from the vents. Whoa! The 2 fighters leapt out of the way, dodging and weaving through the air as the rapid-fire volley demolished the landscape where they'd just been standing. Whatever it isn't intelligent, Paikon decided, more like a child or an animal lashing out at whatever it sees. Is this really what's causing all this damage to reality? I don't see anyone else, do you? Janemba! Janemba! It giggled, clapping its hands together. Janemba! Well, the Saiyan shrugged. We know its name. I couldn't care less, Paikon grumbled. Just kill it. Right you are. The 2 fired quick energy blasts, bowling the Janemba creature over and sending it skidding back through the mountain, crushing the edifice under its massive bulk. However, it quickly leapt back to its feet, unharmed. Huh, Raditz said. Tough one, eh? Seems that way, Paikon concurred. Slow, though. We can use that. However, just as he said this, it thrust its right arm into the air, and its forearm vanished into a round portal that appeared in midair. Simultaneously, it stretched its left arm out, Namekian style, directly towards them. They prepared to block, when another swirling portal opened right above them, Janemba's right fist flying straight down at their heads. Paikon took a punch from the overhead right arm, crashing down into the ground below, and Raditz was grabbed and held between the left's massive fingers. He struggled, but couldn't break free. Strong, aren't you? Well! His eyes narrowed, and he disappeared from its grasp, instant transmission carrying him up to its face, where he threw a kick that snapped its head to the side, taking it down again. A punch, a kick, an elbow, a knee, a headbutt. Gohan and Turles struck each other vicious, merciless blows back and forth, both foregoing defense for an all-out attack. Gohan jumped back, panting, and paused. What was that? It came from the rift where all these people are escaping hell, but it feels like a 5th-dimensional presence. Like someone was shifting. Only not a whole person. How can someone only shift part of themselves? He didn't let it distract him, though. He dodged Turles' next strike, then locked arms with the unrepentant Saiyan. They pushed against each other, the air warping and crackling under the immense force of their ki. Yes, you may have beaten me with that power before, Turles said, a hungry glint in his eyes. But I'm far stronger now. I'll crush you! Is that so? Gohan growled. You might have noticed that I'm not a little kid anymore. He took a slow step forwards, beginning to push Turles back. I've grown a little stronger myself! He shouted, throwing Turles away and hurling an energy bolt after him. Nice shot, Paikon said, clambering up off the ground as Raditz landed next to him. Amazing, such force in that one kick. His Super Saiyan 2 form was unbelievably strong already, but he's improved an incredible amount in these last few years. Thanks, Raditz frowned, but it won't stay down. The attacks aren't really hurting it, just taking it off, if that. Sure enough, the creature was back on its feet, bobbing up and down with glee. Janemba! 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 Right, Paikon nodded. We need to try our strongest attacks, even if that means taking a minute to charge up. Sounds like a plan, Raditz replied. I'll take the lead. As soon as you see an opening, hit it hard. Got it. Raditz flew up a few hundred yards away from Janemba, waving nonchalantly. Hey, fun size! It stared at him, blinking. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Come get it! Janemba grinned from ear to ear, bouncing eagerly at the Super Saiyan. He fired another quick energy beam to distract it and give him time to charge up, but the creature had its own plans. Janemba! It held up both hands, palms up, and astonishingly, twin identical life-size copies of Raditz appeared, one in each hand, bathed in a pink glow. They each launched their own pink energy blasts, smashing Raditz's out of the way and hitting him head-on before he got any further than... What? Paikon saw his chance, taking position behind it, but it flipped over backwards, cartwheeling towards him and kicking him to the ground. Even as he stood, coughing through a cloud of dust, it was facing him, scooping up a double handful of rocks. Now, what's it playing at? It beamed wordlessly, filling the rocks with waves of swirling, chaotic power. Each one in a brilliant flare of light, was transformed into a miniature copy of Janemba. Giggling, the original threw its arms forwards, sending the swarm hurtling towards Paikon. He braced himself as they scattered, then flew at him from all directions, He lashed out with all 4 limbs, sending them flying away, but they just bounced back for more. He knew he couldn't keep it up forever, so he suddenly broke off his frenzied defense, beginning to spin in increasingly rapid circles. Finally, when his attackers were inches away, he initiated the technique. Hyper Tornado! He vanished, becoming one with the hypersonic swirling currents he'd created. In a matter of seconds, the high-speed attack had incapacitated all the tiny Janembas, each one fading from existence with a mewling cry. However, just as he stopped, foes defeated, to catch his breath, the real Janemba loomed over him, foot raised to stamp him out. Damn it! Just then, a voice called out from behind Janemba. Kamehame! Janemba! It spun and leapt forwards, swirling its flabby arms at Raditz, one from each side in an attempt to swat him like an insect. However, he used instant transmission again, appeared behind it and slightly above it. Ha! The energy beam punched right through Janemba's back and out through its stomach. It swayed slightly on its feet, then looked down at the gaping hole in its abdomen, puzzled. Janemba? Thunder Flash! Pycon yelled, throwing both hands forwards and discharging the massive buildup of electricity he'd quickly accumulated. Janemba was taken by surprise, and the attack coursed through its body, finally dissipating and leaving it a charred, smoking wreck that slowly toppled, splashing into a nearby ocean of blood and lying still. Well, that wasn't too hard, Raditz said, dusting off his hands and preparing to power down to his normal form. Pycon floated up next to him. Right. Now that that's dealt with, we can free King Yema, restore everything, and maybe find out just what that thing was and where it came from. Although I'm not entirely sure what we are going to do with the rest of it. It does take up a lot of space. Sell it by the pound? Seriously though, let's... Raditz trailed off, his eyes widening. Janemba's key was still there. More than that, it was rising at an alarming rate. Its corpse began to glow a brilliant green. Pycon, Raditz said, suddenly serious for the first time. Go. What? I said get out of here! The Saiyan flared up his aura, the air around him burning gold and blue. This is beyond you! Yes. Right. Pycon flew back up towards the mouth of hell. I'll go see if I can free Yema. You do that. Raditz stared down at Janemba's shining corpse. Now, I get to see your true face, Janemba. And maybe, if you're lucky, you might get to see mine. Hey, Goku. Kuriza said, feigning cheerfulness. Can you sense those 2 power levels heading our way from the north? Goku, still a Super Saiyan, nodded. Yeah, you want me to go head them off? Yeah. Kuriza's eyes narrowed. Don't worry about me, I've got things under control here. Right, I trust you. Besides, Goku thought as he headed up into the air, leaving a burning golden trail behind him. He never got to see any of his family since coming here. I think it's important he gets some closure. Though knowing that family, who knows what kind of closure that'll be. He headed straight for the 2 key signals, flying straight up into the rain-swept sky. There you are. Hi there, he said cheerily as he approached the smaller of the 2. What? Lord Slug had just enough time to gape in surprise before it chopped to the next sentence, plummeting to the ground, miles below. And now for contestant number 2. Goku glanced left and right. Hey, you're moving quickly. In fact, right on top of me. And wow, I couldn't forget that. Kakarot! A gigantic hand swiped at Goku from within the clouds. Broly, oh! Goku was unable to dodge, and the legendary Super Saiyan gripped him by the leg, swinging his arm around and positioning Goku beneath him, before sending him hurtling towards the ground in a high-speed pile driver. The impact was tremendous, and sent Goku drilling hundreds of feet into the ground. Broly stood over the crater, smiling. A golden column of light burst out of the ground, shortly followed by Super Saiyan 2 Goku. His fist cracked into Broly's face with enough force to level a mountain range 100 times over. Alright, Broly, you want a rematch? Broly skidded back, shaking his head to clear his vision. Kakarot, I'll kill you this time! Just try it. Nappa walked cautiously forward towards the center of the lookout. Hey, Tarble, where'd you got to? Come out, wherever. I'm right here, came Tarble's voice. Nappa turned, seeing the smaller Saiyan approaching. Dr. Mew a couple of steps behind him. Aw, you got a little friend, Nappa chuckled. That's cute. Tarble smiled innocently. I'm glad you're here, Nappa. There's so few Saiyans left. I'm happy for you. Happy for me? The bald brute snorted. You don't resent me? He'd always used to pick on Tarble before he'd been exiled, whenever Vegeta wasn't around. As many Saiyans did, always finding the peaceful wimp a source of amusement. But Tarble had been too shy to tell Vegeta. Besides, the older prince would probably have just told him to fight his own battles. Of course not, Tarble replied. He just had a lot of pent-up aggression is all. I'm sure being a soldier helped you relieve a lot of that. Get a load of this! Nappa shook his head. Got a psychologist over here! It would be wise to stop mocking him. Mew's voice cut through the air like a knife. Hey, mind your own, freak! Nappa growled, tapping his scouter. The thing's power level barely registered. Not a threat. Mew, please. Tarble put a hand on the Tuffle's shoulder. No threats here. I'm trying to help my old acquaintance readjust to the land of the living. Are you? That's nice. Nappa clenched his right hand into a fist. You know, I always hated you, Tarble. If Vegeta wasn't around, I'd have done this a long time ago. Energy started to crackle between his fingers. Tarble's eyes widened. What are you doing? Nappa drew his fist back. You're a mockery to our warrior race. So say goodbye, short stuff. Nappa, don't! This is insane! I'm not your enemy! I'll decide who my enemies are! Nappa swung at Tarble, but Mew stepped in and caught the attack effortlessly. I believe I warned you, Saiyan. The doctor's grip tightened, and bones cracked in Nappa's hand. What? But... Nappa let out a growl of pain. Doesn't make any sense! The scouter said... Just at this moment, the scouter beeped urgently as Mew released some of his power. The noise rose in pitch and frequency, until finally the scouter exploded. Nappa flinched, staring at Mew. Who? What are you? I was, like you, dead, Mew said, shoving Nappa away with a gentle flick of his arm. Without purpose, mindlessly pursuing old grudges. I've been reborn. Nappa rubbed his aching hand. You're crazy. I guess it makes sense Tarble would like you. He's crazy too. Peaceful Saiyan, what kind of crap is that? Mew's eyes narrowed. Every time you open your mouth, you confirm my first impression. You are everything that I hate about your race. He began to advance slowly, his voice growing harsh. Arrogant, boisterous, violent, callous, intellectually vacant. His hands twitched. Do you know? I could rip you limb from limb right now. It's what yours did to plenty of mine. You're already dead. Surely it wouldn't be— That's enough, Mew! Tarble shouted. I won't allow you to kill him. Won't allow it. What could you do to stop me? Why do you even care when I'm acting in your defense? Because you're done. Tarble insisted, putting a hand on Mew's shoulder. No more of the cycle of revenge. You can't start down that road again. I'm not saying there's never a reason to kill anybody, but this is about you, alright? Mew's whole body trembled. You... He glared at Nappa. This is the butcher of my people. Have I changed? Have I moved on? His arm swung up. God damn it! He let out a ki, enough to knock Nappa out cold, but leave him alive. There. Are you happy? Yes. Tarble smiled, bowing slightly. Thank you. Did you really care that much for the existence of someone already condemned to hell? Well, I don't know what happens if you die a second time while already in hell. Or escape from it, or whatever. They began to walk back into the lookout. But like I said, it was more for your sake than his. I need you to understand that revenge killings are essentially pointless. He was no threat to you, and it wouldn't have gained anything. Mew still seemed concerned. He could still be a problem when he wakes up. Unlikely. By the time he's conscious, this will have all blown over. How can you possibly know that? I don't know it. But there's a lot of amazing people out there protecting the Earth. They'll take care of it. Have a little faith, will you? It's a shame, Goku said, dodging Broly's furious swipes. Always felt kinda sorry for you, Broly. You never got to be your own person. Stand still! Broly roared, continuing to miss his light-footed opponent. Still, I guess it's too late for you now, Goku decided. You're far too gone. Just a monster. He flipped over another punch, turning the jumping motion into a double-footed kick to the legendary Saiyan's stomach. Monster! Me! Broly cackled, barely feeling the pain. No, I am a devil! Whatever you say. Goku spun around a leg sweep, ramming his elbow into Broly's neck. Broly stumbled, but stayed on his feet. Damn, you just don't give up, Goku complained. Janemba's bloated corpse was gone. The glow had died. In its place hung a man-sized figure, red skin with purple armor plates, long, twisting tail, swept back horns protruding from its forehead. Slowly, raising its eyes and locking its gaze on Raditz, it breathed out, a noise like crunching glass. So, this is your real power, Janemba. Raditz dropped down out of the air to face it. touching down gracefully on the tip of a spike jutting out of the ground. Go away to this key. It's enormous. This thing is, without a doubt, the strongest enemy I've ever had to face. He slid one foot back along the spike, clenching his fists and furrowing his brow as he prepared to summon up his energy. Quite an impressive transformation. My turn. That's it for Chapter 66. I'll see you in Chapter 67 in just a few seconds. Stay tuned. Bulma was getting frustrated with this thing. The artificial energy detector for finding the supposed androids simply refused to work. Finally, exasperated, she left a full system scan running overnight, examining every component and connection in excruciating detail. On paper, it should be working already. Whatever the fault was, she'd know in the morning. When the morning came, however, it brought no comfort. The results of the scan were displayed clearly. No errors found. Device in complete working order. Can't be right. She mumbled sleepily. She pulled the small device out of the complex apparatus, holding a small screen up to her face. But that much energy being generated, and on such a small scale, what could... Another development brought a gasp, shocking her fully awake. Guys! Gohan, Break, Broly, all were quickly awoken. Bulma waved the device frantically. It wasn't broken! It was working! I don't know how it managed it, but that computer in Jiro's labs has made a more powerful, human portable-sized generator than should be physically possible. So, why'd you wake us up all of a sudden? Break asked, rubbing her eyes. Not going anywhere, is it? Let's just blow it up after lunch, before it finishes building whatever it's cooking up. Too late, Bulma said. About a minute after I focused in, I got a fix on the exact location. It started moving directly towards us. Slowly at first, but it's accelerating. Right after... It can't be a coincidence. Gohan tied his belt on, securing his gi. It detected your scan. It knows you now. Broly was lost. What? What's going on? Lab? Break ignored him. But if something's headed this way, this new android must already be ready. Why hasn't it been sent after us yet? Don't know, Bulma replied. But, look, based on the salvage I got from Android 13, I was about a 6 on this device's power scale. This thing is a 12. So, twice as strong as Android 13? Gohan shrugged. But we can handle that, I think. Probably. No, it's not a linear scale. It's more than twice. Look, I'm really not sure if you can win this one. Time's a-wasting. Break decided, cutting her off. Gohan, take the scanner thing. Head it off. See what we're up against. If it's too tough, don't try taking it on alone. Where are you going? He asked. Both of Jiro's master projects, Cell and Android 13, have been based on absorbing other androids. I'm getting 17 and 18 out of here, just in case. Out of here? What do you mean, here? Where can they go? You don't understand. She held up the time machine capsule, having taken it from her bedside drawer. Right the hell out of here. Then we'll meet up and see about this android. Broly had just about grasped the situation by now. An enemy to fight wasn't too difficult a concept for this early in the morning. What should I do? Stay here, Break ordered. It knows where we are, and I don't want it slipping in here past us to find this place. And Bulma undefended. Broly scowled at being left behind, but understood. Fine. But if you're in trouble, I'm not letting you die alone. Guess I can't stop you. She looked around the room, breathing in pre-battle tension. Right, let's go. 2 golden trails of energy streaked off into the dawn. The following few minutes happened as 18 had recounted to Krillin. An energy beam lanced past her, straight on course for the android's home. Accompanied by a steady stream of curses, Break popped the time machine out of its capsule, scrawled a note and put it in the machine, then replaced it inside the capsule before flying on. It slowed her down a little, but not as much as verbally explaining it all would have. Gohan's energy stopped moving, then rose sharply to maximum, and no more beams came her way. She burst into the house, finding 17 dead and 18 in shock. She tossed the surviving sibling the capsule, shouted a quick warning, and rocketed straight back towards Gohan. His energy was fluctuating. Evidently, he was already fighting. It was disconcerting, though, not being able to compare his power with his enemies. Hold on, I'm coming! The sight that greeted Break, arriving over the ocean to see the fight already in full swing, was unexpected to say the least. Phew, she breathed, for Gohan was fighting not 1, but 2 androids. 17 and 18. Sort of. What's the big deal, huh? She demanded. The look in their eyes. These are nothing like the other pair from the past. These are the monsters that ravaged the Earth, Reborn. Didn't I kill you? The androids drew back, keeping wary eyes on Gohan, who kept his guard up. You killed the older, weaker versions, 17 confirmed. As you've no doubt noticed, we are upgraded. It was true. They were both taller and more muscular than their predecessors. Their hair was longer. Their outfits were almost exaggerated versions of the original versions, with gold highlights, gloves, and large boots. The Red Ribbon Army logos were imprinted into their large golden belt buckles. Careful! Gohan Super Saiyan 2 aura framed him against the rising sun. I was keeping up with them until now, but I got the feeling that they were just playing around. That's right, 18 said. Now you're both here, we can really get down to business. That business being good old-fashioned revenge. 17 cracked his knuckles. They took out 17. The good one, Break told her older cousin. That's so. Gohan frowned. Let me guess. You can detect artificial energy. That's right, 18 said. And now, you can't. What's this? Break asked. Gohan shrugged. The scanner. It got destroyed in the battle. Sorry. I'm sure it wasn't an accident on their behalf. Which means we can't let them out of our sight. I see. Break threw off her jacket, letting it fall into the ocean below. She grunted as she powered up to Super Saiyan 2. Why 17 and 18 all over again, though? That design already failed. The computer eventually reached the same conclusion as the living Dr. Gero, 18 replied. Infinite energy models like us make for the most efficient fighting machines. The technology just didn't exist to make our bodies strong enough last time. In addition, we are now fully mechanical. No biological human weakness. The brain, while a marvel of engineering, has so many flaws. Living flesh, too. 17 picked up right where she left off. Rather than simply making a new android from scratch, our designs were based on the previous 17 and 18. We've had as much as can be salvaged from their memories programmed into us as well, giving us all the more reason to want you dead. Break smiled. Do you remember me killing you then? I do, 18 told her, hands twitching slightly. There wasn't enough of 17 left to record the end of his life. But I assure you what you did to us was a mercy, compared to how you're going to die. It was a mercy, Break said, compared to how long I could have dragged it out. Now you've made it clear you're here to kill us. Are we going to fight while we're still young? If you insist. 18 vanished, rushing at Break far faster than she could follow and landing a wild swing of a punch to the Half Saiyan's abdomen. With a yell as much of surprise as of pain, Break rocketed back, tumbling through the air several hundred meters before righting herself and managing to float still in the air, trying to catch her breath. I can't believe it! The force in just that one hit! Not to mention the speed, I didn't see anything. Yeah! Gohan charged 18 from the side, but she didn't bother to move or defend herself. His fist cracked against her jaw, snapping her head back. Just as he was starting to grin, however, she casually tilted her head forwards again, the movement pushing his hand back. She brushed the stray hair out of her face, and wiped a small trickle of blood from the corner of her mouth. Is that all? How boring. 17, I fought this one last time. You can have him. Fine by me. 17 materialized behind Gohan, who swung around, lashing out with his elbow. 17 simply wasn't there, appearing on the opposite side of his opponent. If you're so eager to get started, allow me. He gave a hollow smile, forming energy balls in both hands. Break stood fully upright as 18 floated down towards her. So, what do you think? The cruel android asked. You made a real mess of 13. Maybe it was premature to go throwing around words like super android, she indicated herself. But you're stronger than ever, and after one hit you look like you're about ready to throw in the towel. Maybe we deserve that kind of title, eh? Look, if I had a towel, the only thing I'd be doing is choking you with it, Break growled. I'm only just getting started! Ah! Her aura burned brighter as she brought all her power to the surface, channeling it down her right arm and feeling the familiar buzz of energy passing through her hand into the air. Ah! She forced herself to keep control of the enormous amount of power she was building. Yes, I think so. Super 18? Super 17? The android nodded. Has a certain ring to it. You'll regret ignoring me! She flung her arm out to the side, pure white arcs of energy slowly deepening almost to green, then coalescing into a concentrated sphere. Normally, I'd start out with some more hand-to-hand and save the best for last, but even in just a few seconds, it's become obvious we're outclassed here. Time to use my new finisher straight off the bat! Yeah! She drew her arm back. 18 folded her arms. Go ahead. Throw your little firecracker. But I still can't decide. Super Android 18? Or just Super 18? Which one sounds... Final Shine Attack! She threw the attack forwards with all her might. Taking a gamble here. They can detect their fellow androids. I just hope they can't sense living energy too. As it turned out, they couldn't. Oblivious to the danger, 18 simply smiled at the incoming blast until it was too late. It struck her full force, completely obscuring her in a gigantic blast wave. Break watched with some satisfaction as her enemy emerged, coughing and spluttering from the smoke. Her smile soon vanished as she realized how minimal the damage was. Barely more than superficial burns. Not good. I put everything I had into that. I don't think it weakened her at all, and she wasn't even defending. 18 clenched her fists, glaring at Break. Phew. It may not have caused any lasting damage, but the burns stung unbelievably. She'd never have imagined that anything these two could do would be actually capable of hurting her. Not in this body. Her eyes narrowed. You had to be difficult, didn't you? And you ruined my shirt, too! It was black to begin with. Break started to retort, before a knee smashed into her face, bloodying her nose. Gohan fled through the skies as 17 launched continuous, unrelenting salvos of energy bolts. He knew the android was still toying with him. It was the only reason he hadn't been hit yet. All of a sudden, 17 appeared inches away from him, one leg raised high into the air. He swung it down, again, almost casually, his speed making a mockery of Gohan's efforts to dodge. 17's foot struck him right in the middle of his forehead, and the Super Saiyan plummeted down into the water below. Smirking, 17 followed, forming a small bubble of ki around him. No sense getting these new clothes wet. Wow, it's dark down here. Gohan thought as he drifted through the water. He really hit me a long way. The light of his aura illuminated the vast, gloomy depths, a tiny beacon in the dark. I can't imagine how cold it would be for a normal person. And down came 17, a predator hungering for the release of the hunt. Well, I won't make it easy for him. He prepared to rush the android from behind, but the next second his enemy was gone. Where? The question was soon answered by the cold, metallic hand around his neck. Gohan struggled, pulling at the immovable grip. The question was soon answered by the cold, metallic hand around his neck. Gohan struggled, pulling at the immovable grip, but even two-handed he couldn't loosen the hold. Verbal communication wouldn't work underwater, but 17's actions and the murderous look in his eyes spoke louder than words. I don't need to breathe. How long can you last? Now, 18 wasn't playing around. Her blood was up. Her fury was aroused. Her attacks came fast and hard from every direction. Brutal, direct strikes. Still, no martial arts skill to speak of was used. It simply wasn't necessary. After only a few seconds, Break felt like she'd taken the beating of a lifetime. And yet, it went on. For nearly a full minute. Dodging, blocking, any defense was useless. Which didn't stop her from trying, desperately searching for an opening or a mistake. Doubtless they existed, and not infrequently. But when your opponent appeared as less a humanoid figure and more a blur of fists and feet, how were you supposed to tell? Come to think of it though, the impacts didn't feel much like punches. In a rare brief pause, Break noticed the android's arms were folded in front of her as she attacked. So, you noticed. She sneered, seeing the Saiyan's eyes widening as she came around for another kick. You're so slow I don't even have to use my hands! Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, 18 seemed to grow bored and relented. Break, no longer held in the air by the transferred momentum of 18's attacks, fell again, landing in the shallows and feeling sand at her back. The realization that she temporarily lost the strength to fly, and had only been held aloft by the beating she had received, hammered home how badly things had gone. And so quickly. I haven't lost anything important, that's good, but bleeding just about everywhere though. Can't see or hear clearly. Probably minus a couple of teeth, too. She sat up, gasping for air and digging her hands into the wet ground as waves broke around her. She'd fought to stay in Super Saiyan 2, but she couldn't maintain her full power. One casual hit from the monstrous android was likely to kill her outright. Having fun? The water parted, flying off in every direction as 18 touched down in front of her. Such a shame. After how easily you handled our previous bodies, I really expected you to last longer than that. 17 tightened his grip, forcing the air out of Gohan's lungs. Hurry up and die now. I want to be done in time to see 18 finish your friend. Gohan tried to clear his head, even as he felt his grip on consciousness waver. I'm not finished yet! He wordlessly formed a Kamehameha at his side, bringing it up and throwing the beam into 17's face. The android released him, jumping away to the left to dodge. Not that he believed it hurt, but he'd probably mess up his hair. 17 frowned. Idiot. I'm still fast enough to stop him getting up to the surface. All he's bought himself is a few seconds. Now! Gohan brought his hands around, directing the beam and pulling it back around towards 17. Again, the android's inability to sense living ki gave the Saiyans an advantage. The Kamehameha, arcing back around, smacked against the back of 17's head, throwing him off balance. Only got one shot! Gohan rushed in, swinging his mechanical arm up towards 17's chin. It's a fact that the human body is capable of exerting much more force than it usually does. The reason it doesn't usually exhibit this extra strength is because it would severely damage the muscle tissue. However, sometimes the mental block can be overcome by training, supposedly, or in times of extreme duress, such as in stories of mothers lifting cars off their children. The same goes for some, though not all, machines. Overperformance is sometimes possible, but generally inadvisable, as it will damage the machine. Finally, this fact is also probably true for ki-using fighters. You can put more energy than your limit into one physical attack, but the force of it is going to hurt you too. With this in mind, Gohan sent a mental impulse that shut off the safety limit to his mechanical arm, focused all his energy into the fist, and punched 17 across the face with all his strength. The resulting impact was enough to completely shatter Gohan's robotic arm. It sent out seismic waves strong enough to generate a titanic wave in all directions. And it was enough that even the mighty super android was hurled back, limbs flailing as if he'd just been slapped by an angry god. 18 paid the tsunami no heed, throwing it back into the sea with a slight shake of her head. You've had long enough to recover, she declared. Let's continue. Crap! Break jumped up, backing away. Can't take much more of that! However, just as 18 moved in to continue her vicious attack, she was forced to backflip away as an emerald beam of light shot past where she'd been standing. What now? She grumbled. Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, hung in the air above them. He landed ungracefully, glaring at 18, then turned to Break. Sensed your power dropping. Couldn't stay behind. Right. Break wiped her forehead. Look, I'm glad you... It's really brave, you coming to the rescue and all. But no offense, if I'm getting my ass handed to me, what do you think you're going to do? Didn't think about that part, he admitted. Details. Not important. Brilliant. She shook her head. Well, points for effort, I guess. You don't look so tough. Broly sneered at 18. He jumped forwards, grabbing her by both shoulders, a move she didn't bother to avoid. Let's see if you break. Didn't he see the state I'm in? Break muttered. Am I really this stupid when I use this form? I mean, come on now. 18 yawned, not moving her arms from their folded position, as Broly struggled ineffectively to crush her between his hands. If you're done... Moving blindingly fast, she swung her body forwards, smashing her forehead into the giant warriors. He fell back, hissing with pain. Just then, Gohan burst out of the water, shouldered some trailing metal fragments, and landed next to Break. Good news is, they can be hurt. And the bad news? Break asked. Of course there would be bad news. The bad news is, we're all going to die, of course, but you've probably figured that one out on your own. 17 slowly rose from the water, practically boiling over with rage. There was a visible dent in his cheek from Gohan's punch, and trails of leaking coolant trickled down his face, drenching his shoulder. Sparks crackled up and down the side of his head. You will suffer! He roared. Thank you so much for tuning in to Chapter 65, 66, and 67. Yes, I know I ended on a cliffhanger, but don't worry. Next week, we will be concluding the Super Android saga, as well as continuing the Fusion Reborn retelling. What'll happen next week? Will Break, Gohan, and Broly be able to survive the Super Android encounter? How will Raditz fare against the monstrous Janemba? And will there be anyone else that comes to Raditz's aid? Find out next week. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with the show. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe. Ginger Powers, signing off.